Joining me live is Indira Jaising, Additional Solicitor General. She's fought long and hard to get justice in the case of another victim who had been harassed and sexually assaulted by Justice Ganguly, and now she's fighting in this case. Indira Jaising, it's shocking in the first instance that another instance should come up, and that too of someone who, when he did this act, was a sitting Supreme Court judge.
You're right, Arnab. The incident occurred not only when he was a sitting judge, but when she was an official intern on the rolls of the court, recruited through the placement committee of the institution to which she belongs. So there's no doubt about the fact that it was sexual harassment at the workplace. And this incident, just to put the record straight, this incident cannot. There's no two ways of interpreting it, is there? I mean, I have read this account, and we have a copy of this affidavit. It's fairly detailed. I mean, this sitting Supreme Court judge made a direct attempt at sexually assaulting this young intern. Yes, it was physical. And hence, you're right in saying it was a direct attack. And Arnab, I'd just like to remind you that way back, Rupandil Bajaj had alleged that KPS Gill had whacked her on her bottom. And the Supreme Court of India had held that this was outraging the modesty of a woman and convicted him under Section 354, all the way up to the Supreme Court. So, you would expect Supreme Court judges to know what the law is. And it's not just a question of law, it's a question of code of conduct, code of ethics. In a position of power, you don't take advantage of a 23-year-old.
And this young lady writes here that this then sitting Supreme Court judge actually asked her whether she would be comfortable traveling with him during his internship and staying in hotel rooms. And she says, I did not know what to say, and I felt extremely awkward and uncomfortable at that question. So what emerges from this, that not only was this sitting Supreme Court judge, not only did he try to make physical advances on her directly and actually did it, but he was attempting to proposition her in a sustained manner.
Arnab, I don't know really what to say, but there seems to be something quite disgusting about the way hotels keep coming up in every case. It came up in the Tarun Tejpal case, it came up in the case of Justice Ganguly, and now you hear a mention of a hotel. So there's obviously some kind of a pattern emerging in all these cases, Yes, I think it's nothing short of a proposition. You're
now,
right.
And I'd like to make a disclosure at this stage, that I know the name of this sitting Supreme Court judge, and you do as well, Indira Jaising, but that I have only for the moment, and I'm saying this with emphasis, only for the moment, we are not putting out the name of this particular judge, though I have absolutely no doubt that eventually it will come out because there has to be justice. But should the Supreme Court itself not make a disclosure on this matter? I mean, if the Supreme Court of India does not tell the people of this country which sitting Supreme Court judge at that point of time, while he was occupying the role of a sitting Supreme Court judge, carried out sexual assault of its kind, then people will raise their eyebrows about what the Supreme Court is doing, with all respect.
You're asking me?
Yes.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Well, I'd like to preface my comments. I would like to preface my point of view by telling you that I, for one, believe that in the case of Justice Ganguly, the Supreme Court did the right and the honorable thing by conducting an inquiry and by putting up his name on the website. I think the Supreme Court did stand by all practicing women lawyers in this country, because it gave them hope that the word of an intern would be believed against that of a former judge. It's a milestone in the journey for gender justice. Now, coming to your question, Arnab, yes, I have here in front of me, I'd like to show it to you. This is can you see it? It's the letter dated 17th December 2013, written by the Registrar of the Supreme Court of India to this intern, and it says, In respect of the subject cited above, I would like to draw your attention to the full court resolution dated 5th December 2013, where it was resolved that representations made against former judges are not entertainable by the administrative court.
Right.
Supreme Court. You may feel free to take appropriate action under provisions of law. Yes, I would like to see the Supreme Court reverse this position. And I do think the Supreme Court has a duty to investigate into
No, but the Supreme Court as of now has refused to entertain this matter. And I think there will be strong views expressed on this, and rightly so, that if the Supreme Court of India just decides that Mr. Justice Ganguly and no further, that seems to be, with respect, the position of the Supreme Court of India, that we've taken a position in the case of Justice Ganguly, and if cases on other sitting Supreme Court judges or past Supreme Court judges comes up, regardless of whether what they did was while they're in office, then the Supreme Court of India will just look the other way. Just look the other way, Indira Jaising? Is that going to be acceptable? Then people will ask questions on whether the Supreme Court, with the greatest of respect, is not performing its duties.
I tend to agree with you, Arnab, that there is a duty on the court. I want to tell you that this is not an issue relating to jurisdiction at all. It is the truth-finding function of the Supreme Court.
Right.
It is an administrative function, and I think the truth has value in and of itself, even if it is prima facie the truth. It still has a lot of value because it certainly validates the point of view of the intern. Look into it. If you find it's unacceptable, you may reject it. You may come to the conclusion that what she's saying is not true. Hear both sides. But to refuse to look into it, I think this issue will have to be taken a bit seriously.
Now this victim, have you got any information? My information is, Indira Jaising, that she's considering to file a petition before the Supreme Court of India, despite her plea being rejected, that she's a fighter, that she's not going to give this up, and she's going to take it back to the Supreme Court of India, and also hopefully this matter will be debated in the court of public opinion.
Arnab, as of now, my information is that this resolution of the full court of 5th of December is not acceptable to her.
Right.
And as of now, my information is she does propose to challenge it.
Does that put the Supreme Court in a bind? Because can the Supreme Court say, Miss So-and-so, we understand your sentiments. We understand that in an affidavit you have said that you've been sexually assaulted by a sitting Supreme Court judge. We are aware of the lurid details of what happened to you, right? We know that he propositioned you, and we have understood what you have said. We also are fully aware that he's presently holding a position of great responsibility as heading a tribunal or a statutory body. But despite all of this, can the Supreme Court say that, madam, we just will refuse to look at what you're saying? Can it say that now?
Arnab, it's here that I need... Look, Arnab, I need to point out to you a major distinction between a decision taken by the Supreme Court in its administrative capacity. What the intern plans to do is to take this matter to the court in its judicial capacity. Any resolution of the court passed in an administrative capacity can be challenged in a judicial capacity. The petition will have to be heard in open court. Judges will have to be designated to hear the case, and obviously there's no way the court can say we will not hear it. There will be a hearing, that is certain. Now, what the outcome will be, Arnab, neither you nor I can predict. What you certainly will understand is that it will raise issues of great public importance for the nation as a whole.
Well,
namely, what kind of behavior do we expect from judges towards women?
Absolutely.
And whether the Vishaka guidelines do apply to judges or not.
Is this not something the court itself is concerned about? Is the Supreme Court of India and the Honorable Justices of the Supreme Court of India, are they not worried that the people of India will say that here is a case of another young lady and her case is even worse than the case of the victim of Justice Ganguly, and it's described in great detail and you are just not looking at it? I mean, is there no conversation in the Supreme Court on this subject, Indira Jaising? You're an additional Solicitor General of India, surely you know.
Arnab, I'm sure there is, and I do know. And I can tell you that, we all know, Arnab, that a large majority of judges will never support this kind of conduct from a brother judge. And therefore, I would like to come back to the report on Justice Ganguly. I condemn the attitude of Justice Ganguly in saying that he's been treated unfairly.
Oh, yes.
Okay? And surely, Arnab, if he wants to substantiate his contention that she's been treated unfairly, he can ask for the video recording which records the entire process by which he was asked to come and appear, and he voluntarily appeared before the committee.
Yes.
Now, in the case of the present judge, if there is no administrative inquiry, there will have to be a judicial inquiry. And there is no way that anybody can refuse to be part of a judicial process. My own belief, Arnab, is that an institution which has the ability to self-correct is an institution that will survive. And the Supreme Court, what it has done in Justice Ganguly's case is it has demonstrated that it has the ability to self-correct, and therefore I'm hoping that in the case of this intern also they will rise to the occasion and say, yes, we are willing to look at this issue, even if it be one of our own former brethren. Because, Arnab, I'd like to say loud and clear that there can be no impunity or immunity for judges in this country against sexual harassment.
I think Indira Jaising, you've been so feisty on this matter. You have stood up for the victims in this case. You have been personally attacked, and I think you're completely right here. Everyone in the country now, after this expose, is looking at the Supreme Court of India. And if that young lady files a petition telling the country's highest court, don't ignore what I'm saying, I have been sexually assaulted, that too by a sitting judge of the Supreme Court, while he in an official capacity hired me as an intern, I think the Supreme Court of India cannot look away. But that's my opinion. Thank you, Indira Jaising, for joining me. Thank you.
Arnab?
Yes.
Just one last comment,
yes,
Arnab,
go
please.
ahead. You want to say?
I do think that the image, I do think that the image of the Supreme Court itself has been enhanced by the fact that they did have the courage to look into the allegation against Justice Ganguly, and that they did put. I'm asking you a question. Aren't you, Arnab, pleased that the name was put up on the website? Are we not, as individuals and as people, thinking people in this country, very, very pleased that the judges did perform their function, and that is why I think the same should happen to this intern as well.
I think I agree with you on that, but then expectations. Rightly so, Indira Jaising, that the country's highest court would protect all victims of sexual assault, regardless of whether the person is a sitting judge or in the future, not just in one case but in all cases, that the Supreme Court, as the custodian of the rights of women and the rights of all citizens, will stand up for and fight for justice for the victims. That expectations, Indira Jaising, has been reinforced both in me, in you, and in all our viewers. So we'll follow this up. I thank you for speaking to me tonight. Thank you.